Getting older has a funny way of showing up in ordinary moments. So picture this one. You're standing in your kitchen with both hands wrapped around a jar of pickles. You've got the towel trick going. You've got hot water running over the lid. You're tapping the rim with the back of a butter knife, exactly the way your father showed you. And there's somebody in the next room, 12 feet away. They would open that jar in about 4 seconds and never think about it again. You're not going to ask them, because you're not really trying to open a jar. You're trying to prove something to the calendar. And the calendar isn't listening. It never has. Not to billionaires with private doctors, not to movie stars with personal chefs, not to your Uncle Ray who'll tell anybody who stands still long enough that he hasn't been sick since 1987. But here's what I've noticed. The people who age best in this country aren't the ones still trying to prove something. They're the ones who set the jar down and started paying attention. So today, I've got 7 important things wise retirees understand about getting older. Some you'll recognize right away. 1 or 2 might irritate you the first time you hear them, and that's usually the sign one landed. Let's start with the big one. The goal wasn't to stay young. There's an entire industry built on the idea that aging is a problem waiting to be solved. Creams, serums, supplements, procedures with names that sound like they belong in a science fiction movie. Billions of dollars a year, all aimed at one message. Getting older is a failure, and here's the fix. And wise retirees look at that and go, hold on, getting older was the whole point. Think about it. Every time somebody blew out birthday candles and wished for a long life, they were wishing for exactly this. Silver hair, a knee that gives you a weather report, a morning routine with a few more steps than it used to have. That was the wish. This is the wish coming true. We talk about aging like it's the thing that happened instead of the good life. It's not. It's the receipt. It's the proof you stuck around long enough to collect. And I'll tell you what I've never seen. I have never, in my life, walked through a cemetery and read a headstone that said he had incredible skin. Nobody's grandkids sit around afterwards saying, you know what I'll always remember about Grandma? Flawless forehead, right to the very end. They remember the pie. They remember the stories she told the same way every single time. They remember how she'd slip you $5 and tell you not to mention it to your mother. The goal was never to stay young. The goal was to stick around long enough to become somebody worth remembering. And you can't do that at 25. You have to put in the years. That's the first thing. They quit competing with a version of themselves that doesn't live here anymore. And the day they quit, they got a whole lot of energy back. Which brings us to the second thing. Appreciate your age instead of resisting it. Because pushing back against your own age doesn't work. And it's expensive. It costs money, sure. Mostly it costs peace. We've built these strange little rituals around dread. The over-the-hill party with the black balloons, the birthday card that jokes about you falling apart, the folks who reach 39 and then just stay there for 11 years, and we all play along because that's the game. Even the question has gone strange now. Listen to how people ask it. Do you mind if I ask how old you are? Do you mind? We've started asking about a birthday the same careful way you'd ask somebody about a diagnosis. We turned every birthday into a small, sad farewell for who you used to be, and then act surprised when people hit 60 feeling like they got demoted. Here's what wise retirees do instead, and it's almost rebellious. They say the number out loud. I'm 72. Not I'm 72, but not I'm 72. Can you believe it? Just 72, like an achievement, which it is. Look at what's packed into that number.
72 years of showing up, recessions you got through, jobs that ended, and somehow you kept the lights on anyway. A couple of heartbreaks that felt fatal at the time and turned out to be tuition. Kids raised on a budget that made no mathematical sense whatsoever. Nights you were very certain you couldn't handle it. And then morning came, and you handled it. You have survived 100% of your worst days. A perfect record. Nobody on Wall Street has numbers like that, and we build temples to those people. Now, appreciating your age doesn't mean pretending every part of it's great. Your knees have opinions now. Youth was a gift, and so is age. The difference is that when you're young, you don't know you're holding something precious. You assume it'll always be there. Then one day you realize that the years themselves were the gift. The ordinary mornings, the birthdays, the people who stayed, the things you learned, the person you slowly became. So don't feel small about getting older. You haven't lost your right to be proud of your life just because time has left its mark on you. All right, let's talk about slowing down, because losing speed is not losing your worth. Think about who you were at your professional peak. Whatever you did it fast. You had the whole thing loaded in your head. You could handle 3 things at once and still eat lunch. And now there are mornings you spend 4 minutes looking for your reading glasses, which are on your head. And what bothers people isn't the glasses, it's what they're afraid the glasses mean. Because we live in a country that measures people in units of speed. How fast can you produce, respond, deliver, turn it around? And somewhere along the line, slow started getting treated like a synonym for done. Here's what wise retirees figure out, usually about year 2 or 3. Speed and value are 2 entirely different things. A sprinter is fast. A chess grandmaster is slow. Nobody watches a grandmaster win a world championship and says, sure, but what's his 40-yard dash? Different game, different currency. And what you traded speed for is something the fast people flat out do not have yet. Pattern recognition. You've seen this movie. You know how it ends. A 28-year-old has to work out that the estimate the contractor just handed him doesn't add up. You can tell from the driveway. That's not a slower processor, that's a much bigger hard drive. There's also a piece of arithmetic nobody bothers to run. Fast had a failure rate. Back when you were quick, you were also redoing things. The email you fired off before you'd finished thinking. The call you walked back the next morning. Speed came bundled with cleanup, and you were moving too briskly to notice you were paying for it every week. Now you go slower, and you go once. And honestly, some of the slowness is a genuine upgrade. You know what's underrated in this life? Not being in a hurry. Standing in line at the bank with absolutely nowhere else to be. The fellow ahead of you is checking his watch every 8 seconds, shifting his weight, sighing loud enough for the whole branch. And you're just standing there, perfectly content. He'd pay good money for what you've got. He doesn't even know it's for sale. The world will tell you slowing down is losing. Wise retirees know that most of the time, slowing down is just the first chance you've had to actually look at anything. And let's not forget, some things get better with age. We talk about aging like it's all withdrawals and no deposits. Everything gets worse, nothing gets better. Hang on and hope. That is measurably, provably false, and researchers have known it a good while. Here's a finding that surprises almost everybody. Life satisfaction tends to follow a U-shape. People are reasonably happy young. It dips through the middle years, right around the mortgage and teenager stretch. Shocking, I know. Then it climbs back up. Plenty of folks in their 60s and 70s report more contentment than they had at 40. Not more comfort, more contentment. Different animal entirely. And every reason for it is something you earned. Emotional regulation improves. Things that would have flattened you at 30 now register as, well, that's inconvenient. You've developed a sense of proportion. You can tell the difference between a catastrophe and a Monday, and that difference is worth more than most people's savings.
Your vocabulary peaks late. Your read on a room, who's uncomfortable, who's shading the truth, who needs somebody to change the subject for them, that sharpens with repetition, and you've had a lot of repetition. But here's the crown jewel, the single greatest benefit of getting older, and I'll defend this one all day. You finally know what you actually like. Sounds small? It isn't, because most people spend 40 years with no earthly idea. You know your coffee, not a coffee, your coffee made your way, and you will notice within one sip if somebody's been improvising. You know which 3 people leave you feeling better and which 2 leave you tired, and you have quietly rearranged your calendar accordingly, and you didn't make a speech about it. Wisdom, patience, perspective, and finally knowing your own taste, none of that comes in a bottle. It comes with mileage. Now let's talk about the thing that trips up more retirees than anything else on this list. Seeking help. October, leaves in the gutters, and a 74-year-old man dragging an aluminum ladder across the lawn. Because his son offered to come by and do it, and he said, "I've been cleaning these gutters since before you were born." Both things are true. He has been doing it that long, and it's a different job now than it was. Falls are one of the leading causes of serious injury among older adults in this country, and a big share of them happen exactly during this kind of thing. Ordinary chores that used to be nothing. The chore didn't get more dangerous, the consequences did. So wise retirees make a shift here, and it's a big one. They stop treating help as a surrender and start treating it as a strategy. Think about it this way. Nobody refuses a calculator because they're good at math. Nobody refuses a dishwasher because they've got 2 working hands. Every capable adult in America hands off tasks constantly, and we don't call it weakness. So why does a grab bar in the shower feel like a personal remark? And this goes well past ladders.
Help means hearing aids because you should get the punchline the first time. Your grandkids tell good stories. You've earned every word of them. Help means a financial advisor because retirement math is genuinely brutal and pride has never once paid a tax bill. Help means grocery delivery, a housekeeper twice a month, somebody to talk. And here's the piece that flips the whole thing around. Every task you hand off is time and energy handed back to you for the things only you can do. Anybody can clean a gutter. Nobody else on this earth can be a grandparent to your grandchildren. Nobody can take your place in your marriage. Saying no to help doesn't protect your independence. An injury is what threatens your independence. Now here is what separates the retirees who thrive from the ones who just hold on. Learning to adapt as you age. The people who do best at this stage aren't the ones who never changed. They're the ones who adjusted early and without making it a whole thing. Adapting means driving in the daylight instead of at night and deciding that's perfectly fine. It means the two-story colonial where you raised 4 kids might be the wrong house now, and that's not a defeat, that's a real estate decision. It means new tools, grab bars, better lighting on the stairs, a pill organizer, voice to text because the keyboard on that phone was designed by somebody who has never met a human hand. And it means a cane if a cane is the difference between walking 2 miles and staying home. You know what a cane actually is? It's a mobility upgrade wearing a costume. People turn it down over what they're afraid it announces, and in doing that, they trade real freedom for the appearance of freedom. That's a rough deal, and I understand completely why people take it. It just costs more than it looks like. Think about a quarterback. Young guy takes the hit every time because he can. The veteran slides, steps out of bounds, and he's still standing in the 4th quarter when the game gets decided. Nobody watches that and says he gave up. They say he's smart. He knows what he's protecting. Adapting isn't quitting. Adapting is how you stay in the game longer than the people who wouldn't bend.
And we all know somebody who dug in, wouldn't move, wouldn't modify, wouldn't change one single habit, and then one ordinary afternoon came along and made every decision for them at once. That's the whole thing. If you don't adapt on your terms, life eventually adapts you on its. Wise retirees pick the first one every time. And lastly, aging is gradual, not instant. Nobody wakes up old. There's no morning where you open your eyes and it happened overnight. It's a slope so gentle you cannot feel it from the inside, and exactly what makes it hopeful. The extra 30 pounds didn't arrive in a week. The stiffness didn't show up on a Thursday. The gap in the savings didn't open last year. Every one of those is 1,000 small days stacked on top of each other, and not one of those days felt like a decision. But turn it over, and it's the best news on this entire list. The good stuff compounds in exactly the same way. The walk you take today changes nothing today. Take it 400 times, and it changes what you're capable of at 80. The appointment you finally book, the friend you call every couple of weeks so the friendship stays warm, the habit you start this month that feels almost too small to bother with. That's the mistake I mentioned up top. People wait. They treat aging like a cliff they'll deal with once they can see the edge, and because there is no cliff, they never start. They just drift comfortably for 15 years and then wonder where all the options went. Wise retirees know the truth. The slope is the thing. There's no edge coming. There's only the direction you've been walking. And you can change direction on an ordinary Tuesday for no particular reason at any age you happen to be. That's not a motivational poster. That's just how gradual works. Gradual means nothing moves fast, including the damage. You've got more room than you think. One last thing before you go. That jar. Sometime this week, you'll get a small chance to prove a point to nobody. You can spend 4 minutes and a butter knife winning it, or you set it down, carry it into the next room, and hand it over. 4 seconds, and you get your whole afternoon back. So tell me down in the comments, which of these 7 hit closest to home? And if there's something you know now that you wish somebody had told you at 45, put that down there too. Somebody's going to scroll past it at exactly the right moment, and I promise you, it'll matter. If this was useful, give it a like. And listen, whatever age you are right now, it's the youngest you'll ever be again. Go use it. I'll see you in the next one.